Why hello and welcome back to another episode of Voice of the Rings. I'm your host and guide, Zollin Ironshield, and today I have something I want to tackle, an idea, and I'd love to hear you guys' comments about this. And it's something to do with a balancing thing in RiseToWar. Now here's the thing, I know some people, this is going to be this is just a little bit of a brainstorm idea, right? But some people are probably going to be like, no, I like how it is, the system is right now. Okay, totally agree with you. I enjoy it too. But I feel like something happens a lot in RiseToWar. And tell me from other experienced players who've played a while or just played 1 or 2 seasons, things like this seem to happen. Tell me if you know what I'm talking about. When somebody, when a combat starts, a lot of things that focuses in this game, happens in this game, is kind of like, I call it the state of affairs, or like the politics, or the battlefront, right? Like what's happening in the game. A lot of times what seems to happen is that whoever like gets to the ring first, or whoever seems really strong early, usually gets like, there's like a lot of like alliances to start happening, and you like someone gets outnumbered or something. That happens. It's a battle game. I get it. Okay. But unfortunately, a lot of times what happens is people pre-plan. Okay. They pre-plan to group up with certain other factions and to make it basically where their win chance is a 90% chance. For example, okay, I'm going to go through the example. What's happened in this season, right, so far, is the fact that there are 4, I have to do the whole story, you won't understand what I'm trying to say. There are 4 strong factions. There's us, who are Gundabad, the Varangs, which are very powerful, Gondor, which is a very powerful faction, and Lindon, okay? Those are the 4 real big ones. Also, Angmar had a decent amount of players, Mordor is also pretty big, and Arnor, okay? Those were the big players, but there were 4 big ones, and there's 3 that have decent amount of players. The other factions have some players, but they're all, 20 players maybe. It's not a lot compared to hundreds, right? So what happened in this season was that the Alliance, the Steppe, which is the people, by the way, everyone, right off the bat, it's been very honorable this season, very great. Everyone's awesome. Some choices have been disappointing for our group with things going on, but that's how it goes. It is a battle game, okay? So I get that. This is not me whining. I'm trying to give you a specific information about the game to show you about my ideas I'm having for other game modes or other ways to help balance the game, okay? So what I'm thinking right now is, how do you balance a game like this without it just becoming people ganging up on other people, right, in the game? Which is going to happen sometimes, and there's sort of things in place that help with that. Realistically, what happened is that basically Gondor and the Varangs are the most players, okay? We have a lot of strong players in Gundabad. We're definitely up there. We held them off for weeks battling with them way down here. When we were down here. And Lindon also, which is Oops, which we played with last season, which have a lot of friends in that group, they were battling with Gondor, but Gondor did push them back slowly. So obviously Gondor and Varangs are the strongest too, and they're allied, right? Well, that's okay. Maybe the server will be balanced. Well, unfortunately, what also happened is not only did they have that planned ahead, Steppe, and again, this is not against Steppe. This was smart of them. It's political. But I'm saying, how do we balance the game so this kind of stuff doesn't happen, all right? I'll tell you my idea in a minute when I finish the story. So then basically, Mordor was just allied with them in the first place. So they never had problems with a Mordor right between their factions because they're buddies with them, right? Which is fine. They planned that. Okay. So Mordor, for one, Mordor is very comfortably safe sitting in the middle of them, right? But now we've got this whole corner that no one can touch, right? Where there should probably be some combat happening, but no one can touch. So you can farm and set up your things and everything, blah, blah, blah. And then you only have the 2 fronts, right? That are fighting from us over here with them, and then Gondor with Lindon. And then the combination alliances came around, right? So we're like, so of course, obviously they were Gondor and them allied. And then we're like, okay, well, right now with the amount of people and all factions, we feel a little bit ganged up on right now, right? That's going to happen, right? So Gondor was battling them, and we're fighting the Varangs, and we're like, okay, it's all right. Well, once other people join in the fights, it'll be a little more balanced, and there'll be a lot of combat happening everywhere, even with this huge alliance of 3 factions in this corner, right? Well, we were hoping then that the smaller factions of Angmar and Arnor, which Arnor, by the way, did join us, and then we were going to ally with Lindon and try to have a combined front, so it'll be what basically between Arnor and Angmar, they should have a similar strength to kind of help balance with the Mordor and to help balance defeat Gondor with Lindon, because Lindon was just barely not able to beat them. So we're like, okay, well, there'll be a balanced server, right? And we were just barely not able to beat the Varangs, so they had more players. So we're like, okay, well, it'll be pretty much 3 big factions against 2 big factions and 2 smaller, medium-sized faction, medium-sized faction. So basically, it'd be a 3v4, right? But when you do the actual math on how many people are on both sides, we would have still been outgunned. Okay, let's just put it that way. Because Angmar and Arnor don't have that many players. Arnor has a decent group, but Angmar had a lot less. But still, they're bigger than like Erebor or Lothlorien that have like no players at all. So, at that point in the story, so this is the current affairs, right, in the game. At that point, we were like, okay, well, we'll join up. Well, what happened was apparently they had talks, and Angmar decided to join with Mordor and ally themselves with the other two factions. So now not only are we having a big problem, now we're split, right? Now Lyndon and us are split. Arnor is getting cut into because Lyndon can't hold off Gondor, so Gondor is going into Arnor. Arnor's trying their best, so we're like, well, we got to combine fronts. So we gave up our entire front line, right, as Gundabad, thinking, well, we're gonna have faction alliances soon, so we'll go and help Arnor, right? At this point, we were really bummed that Angmar decided to do that, but that's okay. That's up to them. It's their choice, right? But then we went around and we're like, well, we need to make a united front with Lyndon. Right? So Lyndon started taking all of Angmar's places because these were Angmar's. So they took all those. And then we came up and we attacked there. The only way to get in to help, to make a united front, we took their capital, which is the only... We don't usually like to take capitals, but we kind of had to in this case. And obviously we would give it back before the end of the season so they get credit. But again, we would have rather than been our allies and helped us instead of kind of backstabbing us, right? With them joining the other group, which is fine. Again, they can do that. But the bottom line is, not only were we already outnumbered, even with them joining us with actual people, because a lot of people are like, they'll say things like, oh, well, you know, that's 4 factions against 3. Well, if you actually look at how many players are in these 3 factions compared to us 4, they still way outnumber us. Probably like, I would say they have for every, 1 player we have, maybe every 2 players, they have 3, right? It's like almost a third more, even with all 3 of their factions and all 4 of us put together. But, so now it's even worse because now it's a 4v3 with the factions that are massive, right? So we're doing our best. We're still battling. And then we take this. And then, unfortunately, what happened in that case then, right, is, so we start, because we can't have them back, we're going to group up. Well, I guess Lyndon we misunderstood something them, or they misunderstood us. And again, with Oops, I like a lot of the people in that. I totally am not, this is not an attack on them at all. But the facts are, we were kind of counting on, well, let's regroup, we'll take this, and we'll make this area kind of, and we'll push back altogether with Arnor. But apparently they split with us, and we were confused. So their argument is, we were attacking a smaller faction, and they didn't agree to take Karn Doom, right, the capital. And it's like, okay, well that's fine, but the problem is, how do we combine when they already have all this land, right? Like, how do we combine anyway? But the thing is, I don't necessarily know if that is all what's going on, because from a tactical perspective, if you're actually know how this game works, and I really feel that they do, their leadership, it almost kind of feels like that they're worried that we're going to be a sinking ship because the entire server is against us now. So that they're kind of like, well, we'll just make a deal and not, we'll just say that because they took that. Right? That's what it feels like from a tactical perspective. And it's not really very good reasoning what they said. And I talked to them, by the way. I want to get their side. I don't want to be like just, oh, they're horrible. Just whatever everyone's saying, people get kind of like, everyone gets easily upset on all sides, right? And this is another reason for my idea in a second. Because the upset thing constantly where servers start, don't talk in world chat because everyone's going to be angry, right? I think there's got to be a way to keep that from being an issue anymore. So I'll give you my ideas now. But, again, the whole situation, it's just kind of like, it's a little bit hard, a little frustrating, because we feel a little bit abandoned. So now it's like, so Lyndon's kind of just going to watch on the side. Arnor is getting smashed by Gondor, right? Which were kind of our allies. Me and Lyndon's our allies. Angmar will be fine now, right? Yeah, we took their capital, but we still have this massive empire bearing down on us, and Mordor hasn't barely even gotten in the fight yet. So it's really hard, right? And it can be like demoralizing for us, because now, of course, we'd like to let's work out, where we just keep our capital and stuff and have PvP now. But the other factions don't want to do that because we're a strong faction, so it's fun to fight us. So they're just going to keep trying to take all of our places, right? And I hope that Step is pretty honorable. I think at a certain point they will, will like, okay, well, let's do a truce. You can have this back or whatever. But again, we would give back Arnor's capital before the rewards. I would. I would definitely. I know a lot of our leadership in our group would. I'm playing with Chef this season. They're fun. They're great guys. Again, very honorable. But it just felt a little bit hard for us because we kind of felt like, okay, so we've been outnumbered this whole time, and now there's this reason that someone is leaving us, and now we feel really outnumbered and abandoned. So we're only pretty much by ourselves, right? Against 1, 2, 3, 4 factions, right? Because Arnor can't really help us, and Linden's gonna probably just do their own thing now with PvP or whatever. And so it's kind of like, right? So again, why did I tell you this whole story? And this has been happening a lot for RiseToWar. I really like RiseToWar. Okay, I really like RiseToWar. It's a great game. And again, honors to everybody. I might be a little frustrated with the decision of the current leadership in Oops, which I think are different leaders than previous seasons. But again, no attack on anyone, and that's their decision, right? Totally their decision, totally fine. They had a reason. They said we didn't communicate with them that we were going to take Ingmar's capital. I thought it was obvious from a tactical perspective. But, you know, that's just kind of how it goes, right? Obviously, we would give it back before the rewards, so Ingmar gets their credit for their capital. But the bottom line is, when it comes to how do we solve the problem of this issue of gang up problems, right? Where it's just like, basically, Steppe and the Gondor Fellowship of... I forget their fellowship name right now. What they planned ahead... Here's the two, them, Drop and Steppe. They planned ahead, see again the top 4 right there, to be grouped up, which is fine. You can do that. That's totally fine to have 2 faction alliances. But not just that, they planned ahead to have Mordor worked out, and then they basically, it's kind of like whoever gets political first, talking to someone and making friends, like, oh, let's just all gang up, and we'll make sure to give you this small bit of rewards, we'll get the main rewards, and then we'll crush everybody else, right? And it kind of gets to the point where it's like, it feels unbalanced, the game. And this has happened 4 seasons now that I've been in. Not exactly the same, but very similarly situation. So I'm thinking how, from a balancing perspective for the main leads, right? Because I'm a big content creator of this game, I would say. There's maybe 10 people who do a lot of content for this game. I do a lot, so I think I deserve to have some ideas. So, cool ideas. What about if, here's the ideas now. So now I told you the facts of what's going on, at least from our perspective, how we kind of feel, and we've been really troopers, man. Chef's leadership's been really good, and we've been troopers, man. We've been fighting kind of an uphill battle all season, right? And now it feels even more uphill, and it's hard not to get demoralized, you know? And that's the thing. I'm at the point where now I just play this game to have fun. So, if I'm losing, I'm like, well, whatever. You know what I mean? We'll do our best. But how do you keep that from happening where it just gets crushed? Now, I understand a faction getting crushed if it only has 10 players. But we're huge. We have a lot of players. We have several hundred, a lot of really strong players. It shouldn't be so easily to set up an alliance so huge like this that there's just no chance really for us to ever push. Maybe to hold on to our lands, but to ever push from our main base, right? And if get kind of outnumbered like that. Well, here's what I was thinking, okay? Here's what I was thinking. I think this could be a new game mode from like a Tactics Rebellion or something. So hear me out. What do you guys think of this idea? If 2 people haven't been fighting for a while, and let's say the only way this can't happen is if you're a faction alliance. So if you have someone touching your border, okay, anybody, and you have not been fighting that person, and they're not a faction alliance, you're not allianced with factions. If you haven't been touching for haven't been fighting at all, and obviously, how do you know you haven't been fighting? Well, you don't have any of these tabs up, right? And it has to be a certain amount. It would have to be a certain amount of actual fighting, so you can't trick the system, okay? At a certain point, there should be a rebellion, all right? And what I mean by that is, it would pick a random spot along your border, if there's several locations, unless it's just one, and AI armies that are good. I'm not talking about crappy AI armies. I'm talking about AI armies that maybe, I don't know, maybe kind of scan the faction and know these players have these characters at these ranks. No, you can't obviously scan their items, but and it creates kind of copies of that power, and they attack the other faction and vice versa, right? Maybe in 2 locations. So the armies themselves aren't fighting each other, but that you have to deal with it, right? So what I mean by that is this would help the situation in my mind as an idea. And give me other ideas if you have another idea to help solve the problem of the gang up without fighting in the back kind of thing. For example, let's say Mordor and Gondor hasn't fought in a while, right? Let's say an attack happens, or let's do a better comparison. These two locations, right? Let's say the Varangs, a rebellion starts and attacks Mordor. Automatic computers, right? And over here, Mordor rebellion starts and attacks the Varangs. Now the Varangs and Mordor have to come back and handle those. Like, strong enough that they could take a keep is the point of that army, right? Or unless you go over there and you fight them. And you have to send, like, maybe a third of your faction or more to deal with it, right? To have people actually deal with it. I know a lot of people right now are thinking, oh, that sounds horrible. But wait, think about it. What would that cause? That would cause a lot less gang up issues, right? Because you'd really want to be whoever your alliance buddy is. You really you'd be fighting with just your alliance buddy next to you, and you would want to make sure you're pushing away anyone touching your borders. What does that mean? That means that things like this couldn't happen, right? Or let's say even here, let's say, for example, for our side, let's say Ingmar was our ally, or Arnor. That couldn't happen between the two of us, right? Because we would have that issue of attacks happening if we weren't fighting them at all, right? And of course, you could still be allies and deal with that alliance uprising, but it would really hurt you, right? You'd really have to fight and lose a lot of troops and defend a spot, and then another faction can be attacking from another angle, right? So it'd have to be strategic, right? You'd have to be like, okay, well, how do we do it where we don't cause that? Well, if you think about it, what you do is you slowly push everyone away. You're fighting with everyone that's touching your border except for an alliance. And what would that cause? That would cause less gang up issues like this, where an entire corner isn't fighting, right? And they're all together, and they all just have one front to push on, right? And then, people wouldn't be so inclined, like, for example, the team Angmar, which, again, no attack on them. That was their idea. They were like, well, let's just join with the strongest faction so we can get some points at the end. Well, it kind of hurt them because we ended up attacking them. So, and I don't think they realized that if they had joined us, the four of us would have had a chance to fight Varangs and Gondor. Mind you, I still don't know if we would have beat them. I still think they might have beat us with Mordor, the three of them, with the four of us. But again, it would have been a closer and more fair fight. I think this idea, though, of like rebellions or something, or some kind of AI thing in the game would help balance it to make the game a little less political, as in, it's, one good, very charismatic couple leaders get everyone on their side, and then the one or two other people are just attacked, right? And again, we have really good leadership, and we have very charismatic, nice people leading us, but I don't think we were expecting to be this pre-done plan of like 3 or 4 factions all allianced against us, right? We'd assume that there would have been more battling between all the other factions, right? Which is my idea's goal, right? That's the goal I'm thinking of, the idea. So anyway, what do you guys think of that idea? It's been getting a little bit hard, a little bit frustrating the last few seasons. I've noticed this keeps happening. It's like whoever preemptively, politically gets everyone on their side starts winning. And I don't think that's how it should be, really. There's got to be some way to balance it better. That's why I actually think the Kings of Men game mode almost balances it better. Because at least you're grouping up into full factions, right? Like when you group up the fellowships, they're usually like just 3. And again, like I told you, they switched that. I think it was a mistake to make it smaller because it caused more of the group up against people thing. I think having the 5 was a better thing with the kingdoms, but that was just that was my idea. But similarly, again, I feel like there's got to be some way that the devs have to look at a new game mode. I'm not necessarily saying they have to change the current game modes. Some people really like this game mode, but I bet you if they made a new game mode that balanced that better, like that with some kind of event, so it made it a little less gang-uppy, I bet you 50% of players would join that game mode. Just saying. I really think so, and I think I could say that because I've been playing every season, and I've been kind of in the mainstream with big groups now for a couple seasons, so I'm seeing that a lot. And I really like this game. I really want to see this game improve. I really don't want to see it go downhill. And something that's happening too is that the longer you play this game, the more respect you get for commanders and the more items you get. And those come over with you, which is good. You should have those come over with you. If you spent time, you should have those, right? Or you spent money or whatever, you should have those. But at the same time, it causes bigger and bigger groups. So when new players come in, they're real weak and they get ganged up and crushed on if they're not joining with a big group, right? And a lot of big groups want the best players with the most stuff, right? And I get that. But again, this is another way to do it, because think about it. If you had a rebel system that copied whoever your team is to attack you, Not exactly, not everything. It'd be kind of lame if it perfectly copied everything. But let's say you have a really big whale player in your team, and he's got 2 characters that respect 20, right? Well, that Autobot copies those 2 respect characters, maybe gives them some other armor that's not as good, or random armor, whatever, with armies, and attacks you, right? If you're not fighting those people on your board, if you're trying to do a big alliance thing with more than just the 2 factional system, right? Now, another thing you could do, of course, another idea would be to just make the factional system make more people be able to alliance in a faction system. But I think that might make the gang up thing even worse, right? Rather than better. And I think the Kings of Men game mode already kind of does that. Which again, I think the Kings of Men game mode men shouldn't have only gone down to 3 fellowships for a kingdom. I think they should have left it as 5. But because usually it seems like there's about, in those game modes, there's usually about 10, 15. So the problem is, and it still groups up, they were trying to make it into more kingdoms. It never does. It's always just 2 or 3. You almost never see a 4th kingdom. I rarely ever see that. So it seemed weird to exclude people, because then you're only able to choose the 2 or 3 biggest fellowships, and then those other fellowships they could have joined in as little side fellowships now are just stuck out in the poor cold, right? That's another story. So anyway, that's kind of what's going on. That's the state of affairs. Our battles have been awesome. We've been having a lot of fun battling and doing stuff. I just thought that this is something that is probably kind of important to talk about and think about. And this isn't me complaining, okay? I know someone's going to make that comment, right? It's not. I'm literally just trying to think, how can the game be improved in a way to cause no friction? Because I get tired of this thing where you're like, oh, that fellowship's bad, this one's bad, they broke their treaty, and that. The bottom line is it's a war game, so that's gonna happen, guys, and it's a game. But it is kind of frustrating when you spend weeks playing together and then someone feels like they kind of abandoned you or something, right? Because it's kind of what we feel like right now, because we were so outgunned, and we were outgunned even with Lyndon on our side and with Arnor. And then Angmar joined the other team, so now we're really outgunned. And then Lyndon pulled out because we were trying to make a united front. It's a little bit demoralizing, right? And for the other team, again, what incentive would they have to let us keep our stuff and start a PvP zone, right? Out of the kindness and of there being, I think Step will probably do that. Step's pretty honorable, right? Again, everyone in this server has been very honorable and very fun. And I understand that certain people have reasons why maybe they split and stuff. They told us. I didn't really get very good reasons, right? When I talked to them, I actually talked to them, right? I actually asked them. I think, did I even say, is it still here? So you guys can see. I literally asked them. I think it was right here. Yeah, it was, it was right here. I just said something about, you can kind of see it right here. Not that it matters. This is public, by the way. This isn't the United Faction public. That's why I'm showing you on the video. I would never share something that wasn't public. Like, if someone talked to me privately, even though I disagreed with them, I still wouldn't share it. Oh, here's a go. I asked why. I'm confused, and this was their reason. Which, again, I want to be fair. That was their side. But the thing is, from a tactical perspective, this being the reason is really weird. All right? And I'll just show you a little bit more. And then I kind of said something like this, right? I was like, oh, I was just chance we already outnumbered. But again, I don't know why they assumed that we were ganging up on Angmar. Angmar joined the massive group of people who were attacking us, and we had to sacrifice our entire front line, meaning back here, because we were pushed up to here. We had to give all of these up just to go and take this capital so we wouldn't get backstabbed by Angmar coming over behind us, right? And then we're totally surrounded, because Gundabad's in kind of a rough spot, so it kind of like Rohan or Isengard, they're kind of like right in the middle there. Like, out of all the middle factions, I think Lothlorien has it best, the way it's designed to be protected. But and again, I really like Oops. I really like that group. I don't know why they're leaving us. It's a little bit sad. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll change their mind. If they do, I'll make another updated video for you. But the main point of this video was not to rag on what the situations are happening, is how can we improve the game to not cause this super alliance thing, right? So you can see here, Gondor, Mordor, and them, they own 2/3 of the map right now, right? And that's fine. I mean, again, it's a war game, but we have had bad luck on we've been outnumbered the whole time. Rangs is much stronger than us in actual active players, right? They just have more players, even though we are a very strong team, like really strong still. And, maybe there's a game mode, you know? I would think a game mode would be really cool. Here's another idea for a game mode. You stick everyone in the corners and everyone moves out, and there's 3 big factions automatically, right? Instead of having like it's more like a Risk game, right? And just boom, 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 and then everyone just converges on the ring, right? That would be cool. I think that would be kind of cool, right? And then no matter what, the server doesn't really start until you filled out all 3 of those factions. Now again, that could still cause problems, but then you have this thing where you know, they could have that same system where if 2 people aren't fighting and they're trying to gang up on one person, that the Autobots start fighting each other, right? Because they weren't fighting. That kind of thing. I don't know. I think there could be some cool ideas. What other cool ideas do you guys think? Again, I like everybody on our server this time around. No one is as bad as that Team Nasty that we had that one season. Oh my gosh. That was their... I've never met such horrible people in a game before. Well, I mean, some games, but... that was pretty bad. But this season, everyone's been wonderful and nice. So hopefully everything will be fun still for us. But right now, I feel like we're kind of the fun battering ram, or beanbag, because we're strong. So why wouldn't Gondor and everybody just come for us to fight us and try to take our stuff, right? When they've kind of allied with everybody else, or made people neutral, kind of thing. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think with ideas? Thanks for listening to this whole little spiel and ideas I had for making basically more balance, because I just think it's a balancing issue of the game, and I think it would prevent people from being angry at each other, because most people know me. I'm really nice, like, to even our enemies in RiseToWar, and I try to be really fair, and like I just showed you, I asked people in the comments, I'm not going to show you the entire thing because it's boring, but like, I asked, like, well, why are you guys leaving us again? I'm confused. I wanted to make sure I got their side, right? Which, again, and we know their side now, is that, well, we attacked Angmar's capital. Well, the thing is, that they're forgetting about that is the fact that Angmar joined up with the factions that have been crushing us behind us. So we had to give up land and make a strategic decision here to try to have, so we're connected with Linden, so we can have a united front. And then they left. So we're like, for a strategic perspective, so either it's strategically they think that that's the right thing to do, or it's kind of just another reason because they'd rather just not be with us because they know we're going to kind of be the meat hitting sack for the enemy teams over here, and they want to kind of just make a deal to just keep their corner so they get some rewards. Like, maybe that's it. I don't know. I'm hoping what we'll do is just, since it seems so unbalanced now, that we'll just start some PvP zones, and after everything, and then we just have fun, right, as a team. Because, again, everyone's been really honorable this season. But I don't quite get it doesn't really make sense to leave for the reason they're saying to leave the Alliance. So, because it was just out of the blue. If they saw us going for the capital for like a few days, they could have told us. They didn't. So, I don't know. Again, I don't think it's a conspiracy theory or anything, but I just don't think it's a really good reason. That's all for doing what they're doing, because it kind of feels like we feel a little bit abandoned because we're already outnumbered by everybody, and it's like, oh man, we were really counting on our buddies to come help us, kind of thing. But that's how it's how it goes. It's a game. That's strategy. But again, what do you guys think of those ideas? What do you think of those ideas? Gosh, man, this video is a lot longer than I was expecting to talk about this. But I really think there could be some good ideas of helping balance the game to not cause the battle situations that makes everyone so upset, right, in this game. And, like, I've tried my best to just stay out of things and just be like, okay, I'm just going to relax, right? It's just a game. Because it's too stressful. It becomes too stressful. And it's like, I'm playing the game to have fun, not to have stress. But, like, how do you do it where it doesn't happen like this all the time? You want to be able to make alliances strategically and stuff. But how do you do it where if you are literally just grouping up with 4 or 5 people, that it's harder for you somehow, right? Maybe there's a way to make it where, I don't know. If you haven't fought a certain faction for a long time, other factions get buffs. I don't know. Like, that I feel like that would just break the game, so that wouldn't really work. So I think my idea of a rebellion system would make more sense, right? Basically, if they've been next to each other too long without fighting a faction, they rebel, unless you're united, right? Yeah, I don't know. I think that's the best way to keep less of the mass group early, like, make friends with everybody, and now we're going to just smash that one of the big group, and then we'll basically split the resources, and us, the biggest team, will get the first place prize kind of thing. Or there's another idea. We change how the prize system works. right? Because they've done that in the past. You could change how the prize system works. Maybe make it where DG is still one of the biggest prizes, but make it where there's the ability to get the same level of prize for 2 groups, right? Because you can sort of do that with the second level, right? You can sort of get a couple people to have the second rewards, right? This one, Renowned Creator. But what if we added a 6th one and still made the Ring of Power the top one, and then made another one too? Like, or maybe, you know, the Rings of Power can only be one group. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know how to balance that better. I think my Rebels idea is probably one of the best ideas I've thought of in the last couple days. I've been thinking about this for a while. So, what do you guys think, all you other longtime players of this game? What do you think? What do you like? What do you dislike? The fact that there are a lot of, like, you know, frustration and a little anger comes out between people when certain things happen. Again, I don't want to be mad at anyone for, like, you know, feeling a betrayal or this or that. It's like, again, oops are just other players and they're just having fun too, right? And so is Step, and so is the Gondor Alliance, and so is everybody else. And so are we, right? And everyone's been pretty darn awesome, so I'll end with that. All right, you guys, have a great day, and thank you so much to Skumley for being a royal guard of my Patreons. And I will continue to make content for this game. I will say, in the future, I'm definitely not going to ever be as stressed about this game. I'm just going to always be having fun. Because in the past, I've tried to help be kind of like a moderator, and again, a lot of people know that I've always been kind of like really, even when it's for my team, I'm usually really kind and listen to the other people's opinions on the other team. But there's just a couple things that people shouldn't do, like spying, though I haven't really seen spying happen this season. So again, more honorable season altogether. But it is kind of hard, though, to have our allies leave when it feels like on the eve, it feels like, where was Gondor? Where was Linden? I'm just kidding, except for orcs, we're going to bed. But you know what I'm saying. All right, guys, subscribe button's there. I mean, if you subscribe after this talk, I'd be impressed, you know. But I do lots of other Lord of the Rings stuff, and we do lots of RiseToWar. But again, these are just ideas for helping balance the game. I thought, since I'm a big creator of this game on YouTube, putting a lot of videos out, that I should talk about this, because I think it would be good. I think it would be good. And I'll see you all in the next episodes of Voice of the Rings. Stay happy, my friends.